Hello everyone, my name is Whitney Monin, technical agronomist with Channel Seed in southern Indiana and Kentucky. Thank you very much for joining us for our very first agronomy break video. In this week's video, we're going to talk a little bit about low germ quality in soybeans. The industry has been buzzing about low germ scores coming back in soybeans. Some of you may be wondering, well Whitney, what is contributing to these low germ scores that we're seeing on our soybeans this year? Well, that's exactly what we're going to discuss in this week's video. For anyone who's spent any amount of time around soybeans, you have probably come to understand that soybeans can be sensitive. And when it comes to germ quality scores, this is definitely where we see some of this sensitivity reflected. So there are three factors I'm going to discuss today that could be contributing to lower germ quality in soybeans. First is weather and environment, second, disease and fungal pathogens, and third, a lack of timely harvest in the field. First, with regard to weather and environment, I think most of us watching this video would agree that the 2018 growing season was no walk in the park. And from a soybean production perspective, this can make things definitely more difficult. Across the US, it was the fourth hottest year ever on record. And in many of our individual states, in terms of growing conditions, we logged record-setting moisture. These fluxes and flexes in temperature and moisture can definitely contribute to lower overall soybean germ quality. Next, let's talk about diseases and fungal pathogens. In 2018, we had no shortage of diseases out in the field. In my area, our primary disease of concern was frog eye leaf spot. And frog eye was here, and it was here early. And a lot of that was because of the weather and environment that we had. High levels of humidity, moisture, all these things contributed to subtropical conditions, and frog eye got started early in that lower canopy. Frog eye was a bit like the gateway disease. It definitely stressed the plant, and it allowed for entry of many other diseases in the field. Things like stem canker, diaporthy complex, anthracnose, pod and stem blights. All of these diseases began to take its toll on the soybeans in the field, contributing to premature death. A lot of times this premature death allowed for pod wall desiccation and even the fungal diseases moving onto the pod wall themselves. Once those pod walls began to be compromised, we began to see the pod walls splitting in the field. These open pod walls were allowing, number one, our soybeans to roll straight out the bottom, losing our really important seed and valuable yield in the field. But also, when the pod walls opened up, they started acting like teacups, catching any late season moisture that was coming through. As that moisture was collecting in the pod, a lot of times we were actually seeing soybean seeds sprouting in the pod, and we were even seeing seed discoloration. I've talked to many customers who saw black soybeans, purple soybeans, and white soybeans all in the grain tank. And a lot of these things, like black soybeans, were caused from the sprouting seed that had interaction with the water and environment. The seeds actually began to germinate. Purple soybeans caused by Cercospora, which is a fungal disease pathogen. Phomopsis seed decay, white soybeans, mummified almost looking, again caused by a fungal pathogen in the field. The fungal diseases and the pathogens out in the field certainly didn't do us any favors when it came to overall soybean germ quality for our 2019 crop. However, the final nail in the coffin was likely lack of a timely harvest. The longer the soybeans remained in the field exposed to the weather, environment, and all of those fungal pathogens, the worse our germ quality scores likely became. Again, soybeans are very sensitive. So with that being said, some of you might be thinking, well Whitney, what do I do if I receive some soybean varieties that have overall lower germ quality scores? Well, today we're going to discuss 4 different strategies you can use to help protect your soybeans for the 2019 growing season should they have some lower germ scores. Make sure you're being aware and detail oriented as seed is coming into your shed. Make sure you're examining your individual seed tags or boxes of soybeans as they're coming into your operation. Talk to your seed professional if you see a lower germ score. The industry standard for a lot of soybeans is around a 90% germ score. If you see something that's in the 80s or in the 70s, make sure you have awareness and you've been talking to your own seed professional, and in our case, your channel seedsman. If you do notice that you have a variety that has an overall lower germ score, make sure you're doing the math and considering your desired planting population and ultimately your desired stand in the field. For example, if you have a desired stand of 140,000 seeds, what is the population that you should be planting to achieve that desired stand given a lower germ quality score? Make sure you do the math. Third, consider your planting conditions. Now, I know what you're thinking. Whitney, I cannot always plant every single soybean in ideal temperatures and ideal soil conditions because I have to get a crop out. And sometimes that means I have to push. And I totally understand that. But with regards to your specific varieties that might have overall lower germ quality scores, make sure you're doing your very best to set that seed up for success. By this I mean, remember, ideal temperatures, soil temperatures for your soybeans at the time of planting within the seed zone is about 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember, it is not 55 degrees of ambient air temperature, it's 55 degrees within that seeding zone. Fourth and finally, protect your investment. For you, this likely means protecting your soybean seed with a downstream treatment of fungicide and insecticide, and depending on your area and location, potentially with Olevo or even Neemastrike. If you know that your soybean seed is already going to have an overall lower germination score, the best thing you can do is protect your investment on the seed that you do have. Give it the maximum opportunity at emergence so you have the ideal stand you want in 2019. Thank you for joining us for our first ever Agronomy Break video. If you'd like to learn more about any of the topics we discussed here today, please feel free to check out www.channel.com. If you'd like to learn more about Channel or where to find your channel seedsman, also look us up on the channel website. If you'd like to be a part of additional agronomy updates from me, please follow me at Monin Whitney on Twitter. Thanks so much. We'll see you in our next Agronomy Break.